When most people think of the Middle Ages, they picture knights, castles, and kings. But beneath that romanticized image lay a world where pain was considered a tool, a path to confession, a form of punishment, and sometimes a public spectacle meant to keep entire populations in fear. Today, we're going deep into the darkness. These are the torture devices that actually existed, confirmed by historical records, museum collections, and trial transcripts that survived the centuries. Some of what you're about to hear will be difficult, but understanding this history matters, because these weren't the inventions of monsters. They were the inventions of ordinary people living in a world with a completely different relationship to pain, power, and justice. Let's begin. Perhaps the most famous torture device in history, the rack, was exactly as brutal as it sounds. The prisoner was laid flat on a wooden frame, with their wrists tied to a roller at one end and their ankles secured to another at the opposite end. A handle or crank mechanism would then be used to slowly stretch the body in both directions simultaneously. The goal wasn't always to break bones immediately, though that often happened. The slow, creeping tension on the joints was designed to produce maximum psychological terror alongside physical agony. Shoulders would dislocate, hips would separate, the spine would be put under unnatural strain. What made the rack particularly effective as a coercive tool was its adjustability. A torturer could stop at any moment, right at the edge of dislocation, and ask their question again. Prisoners often confessed simply because they could feel what was about to happen. The rack was commonly used in England during the 15th and 16th centuries, and records from the Tower of London document its use in extracting confessions from political prisoners. Not every torture device was built for dramatic effect. Some were coldly efficient. The thumbscrew was a small, almost unremarkable metal instrument. 2 flat bars connected by a threaded screw. The victim's thumb was placed between the bars, and the screw was tightened. Simple, portable, devastating. The bones of the thumb are small and close together. As pressure increased, the pain became extraordinary. And because the thumbscrew could be applied slowly over a long period of time, it was considered ideal for interrogation. There was no dramatic spectacle, just quiet, methodical agony. Variations existed for fingers, toes, and even the skull. A device known as a head crusher operated on the same mechanical principle, placing the victim's head beneath a metal cap attached to a screw. The effect, when fully applied, was fatal. Sometimes called the Judas chair or the confession chair, the iron chair was exactly what it sounds like. A seat made entirely of iron, covered in sharp spikes. The prisoner was strapped into it, the spikes pressing into their back, thighs, and arms. Unlike devices designed for rapid pain, the iron chair was built for endurance. The spikes were typically not sharp enough to puncture deeply. They were positioned to cause constant, unavoidable pressure. Hours in the chair would exhaust the prisoner completely. Sleep deprivation was often used alongside it. A prisoner who might resist a single session of intense pain often broke down after being deprived of rest while constantly uncomfortable. Records suggest variations of this device were used across Central Europe during the Inquisition period. This device required almost no equipment at all, just rope and gravity. The prisoner's hands were bound behind their back, and the rope was thrown over a beam above them. They were then hoisted off the ground by their wrists, their full body weight hanging from joints that were never designed to bear it. In some variations, weights were attached to the prisoner's feet, dramatically increasing the strain. In others, the prisoner would be repeatedly dropped and stopped just before hitting the ground, the jolt causing muscles to tear and joints to rupture. The Strappado was widely used during the Spanish Inquisition and is documented in numerous trial records. What made it particularly insidious was that it left few visible marks initially, making it possible for officials to claim that no physical torture had taken place, even when it clearly had. This is one of those devices that most historians confirm existed, though the full extent of its use remains debated. A pear-shaped metal instrument with a segmented outer shell, it was inserted into the body and then expanded using a screw mechanism, causing severe internal damage. The name came from its shape. Some accounts describe 3 or 4 metal leaves that would slowly open outward when the screw was turned. Its purpose was both punitive and humiliating, designed to cause maximum suffering in the most vulnerable areas of the body. While some skeptics have questioned whether certain examples in museum collections are authentic medieval artifacts or later fabrications, period documents do reference similar devices, and examples have been dated to the 16th and 17th centuries. This device was used almost exclusively against women, and its name leaves nothing to the imagination. Made of iron, often heated until red hot or left cold, it was a claw-like instrument used to cause severe mutilation. Women accused of adultery, heresy, or practicing what authorities called witchcraft were among those subjected to it. The existence of this device is confirmed in multiple historical and legal sources across Germany and other parts of Central Europe. It stands as one of the most visceral examples of how gendered violence was built into systems of medieval and early modern punishment. If previous devices were about extracting confession, the breaking wheel was purely about punishment, and about making that punishment visible. The condemned was tied to a large wagon wheel, and their limbs were systematically broken using a heavy iron hammer, starting from the extremities and working inward. Death could take hours or even days. In some regions, the wheel was then raised on a post, leaving the condemned on display, a public warning. The breaking wheel was used across Europe from the Middle Ages well into the 18th century. In France, it was a standard form of capital punishment for serious crimes. In Germany, it was known as Rettern. Court records from France, Germany, and Switzerland confirm its use in hundreds of documented executions. Closely related to the iron chair, the Judas Cradle was a pointed wooden or metal pyramid mounted on a frame. The prisoner was hoisted above it using ropes, then slowly lowered. The point was positioned beneath them, causing extreme pressure and eventual penetration. Again, the torture was designed for duration rather than immediacy. The ropes could be adjusted to increase or decrease pressure. In some accounts, the device was used overnight. The prisoner left to endure it across an entire sleepless night. Like several devices from this era, questions exist about the precise extent of its historical use. But the device itself appears in documented sources, and similar instruments are held in museum collections in Europe today. Small, almost delicate-looking, and completely merciless. The Heretic's fork was a 2-pronged metal bar worn around the neck. One set of prongs pressed against the underside of the chin, the other pressed against the sternum. A leather strap held it in place. The device didn't harm the prisoner unless they dropped their head, at which point the prongs drove upward into the soft tissue beneath the jaw. It was designed to prevent sleep. A prisoner who began to drift off would be jolted awake by sudden pain. It was often inscribed with a single Latin word, abiuro, I recant. Its message was unmistakable, and its effectiveness in breaking down a prisoner's resolve over time was well understood by those who used it. It would be easy to look at these devices and write them off as the products of a barbaric, unenlightened age, something we've long since left behind. But that would be too comfortable. Many of these instruments were developed not by lawless criminals, but by legal systems, by institutions, by officials who wrote careful records and followed established procedures. The rack sat in the Tower of London, one of the most prestigious fortresses in the English-speaking world. The Strappado was used under the formal authority of the Inquisition, with scribes present to record every word. These were not aberrations, they were policy. The real lesson of medieval torture devices isn't about the past. It's about what human beings are capable of when systems of power strip away accountability and redefine what counts as acceptable. That question, what happens when institutions lose their moral limits, is one that every generation has had to answer for itself. The devices rusted. The question never did.